talk about the frenzy in the IPO market. What's really going on there? What's been fueling this IPO boom? The large IPOs, is there room for everyone to get in even after the listing? Who better than Pranav Haldea to answer exactly that? Pranav, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the show. Pranav, let's first pick up from the recent one, right? A large IPO like Bajaj Housing Finance just managed to sail through, and so much appetite, right? So it's a strong one at that. On its listing day itself, it's managed to cross that market cap of 1 lakh crore rupees, which, many doyens of the listed universe have taken decades to do that. But the question is this euphoria like the 1994s? And is it liquidity or structural-led IPO boom that one is witnessing?
Well, I think we're in the midst of a stellar year. I think one really interesting aspect of this year has been both on the demand and on the supply side. So while there's a steady stream of good quality, mature companies which are looking to tap the IPO market, several of them have been backed by private equity and venture capital funds over the years. So there are no, unlike the 90s, like you just mentioned, there are no concerns in terms of governance or the business model itself, which was a big issue back in the 90s. So that's on the supply side. And on the demand side, clearly there's no dearth of investors. Domestic institutions are sitting on huge piles of cash. Retail and HNI investors are coming in a big way into the IPO market, albeit primarily from a flipping point of view and not as a long-term investment. But, you're seeing an incredible confluence of both demand and supply, which is resulting in the sort of numbers that you're seeing.
Right, and with the kind of large IPOs, the likes of LG Electronics, Hyundai, Swiggy that's anticipated, how is this going to overshadow some of the smaller IPOs largely due to liquidity issues, or do you think that there is enough space for their IPO success as well?
No, I think, this is, in my view, it's been a bit of a dummy which has been thrown about for the last 7-8 years that, in case there's a large IPO, like the one that you saw of Paytm or LIC, then that sucks out liquidity from the secondary market. I think the data doesn't really back that because, even an IPO of a size of an LIC, talking about 20,000 crores. And our secondary markets are now so deep, and you seeing lakhs of crores being coming in on a regular basis. So, I think if there are good quality issuances at attractive valuations, there would always be enough buyers for that, and that would not necessarily either impact other IPOs or even the secondary market.
Point taken. So there shouldn't be any big worry regarding the liquidity getting sucked out despite the kind of flows that we are seeing. But then, Pranav, there's always that, cautiousness or circumspect that we are about some of these, PEs and private equities booking their, profits or exiting out of some of these companies. Do you see that kind of concern in the market as yet? And even from the valuations point of view, do you think the class of 2024 per se is a lot more attractively priced and leaving a lot on the table, and perhaps the learnings that we had seen from the class of 2021?
Okay, so let me take both those questions. So, to talk about private equity and venture capital firms. So, you just spoke of 1990s when you saw a deluge of companies coming out with IPOs. As we know, several of them completely vanished with investors' money or their business model did not click. Ironically, most of them would come in only from a fresh capital raise. At that time, there was no OFS component. Most of these companies were coming with fresh capital. Now, over the last few years, you've been hearing this negative commentary that in case there's a high OFS component, maybe it's not a good investment. I don't think that should be really what investors look at. You just need to judge the quality of the company and the valuation at which they are coming in. We have to be conscious of the fact that the growth capital, the risk capital, which was earlier being, these companies were coming to the IPO market for that. Now that risk capital is being provided by these venture capital and angel investors and private equity funds. They help, moving the company from a small scale unit to a certain size, put governance mechanisms in place. And we need to realize that they also need an exit. They need to return money back to their investors. And only if they do that, would they then have further money to invest in newer set of companies. So in my view, it's a sign of a maturing capital market ecosystem. And this is something similar to what you find in the Western capital markets as well. To your second point about the valuation, my view has always been that, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. In case an IPO even gets subscribed a single time, it shows that there was enough demand for that particular IPO at that particular price. We've been having this debate on valuations, whether on the primary market side or on the secondary market side. But, that's the essence of the market, because the buyer always feels, that the price will go up, and the seller feels that the price is already maxed out. So I think that's the essence. We shouldn't read too much into the oversubscription numbers per se, but I think as long as IPOs are getting subscribed, we have to again be conscious of the fact that firstly, no company wants their IPO to fail, so they would not price it in a manner that is extremely exorbitant in its pricing. Second of all, it's the bankers who are launching these IPOs. They are the same set of bankers, and they have a reputation to maintain as well. Third of all, and very importantly, we need to also be conscious of the fact that in India, several companies which come out with IPOs are promoter controlled. And these promoters continue to hold significant stakes in their companies even post IPO. So actually, it is in their best interest that, if there's a huge rally, for example, in Bajaj Housing Finance, if it doubles on listing or, triples on listing, they have a huge chunk of stake, which is also increasing in value. So it is in their interest that, there is a significant rally post-IPO as well.
Okay, point taken. And just before we let you go, Pranav, what's your take on a lot of these MNCs looking at India to unlock value, whether it's Haldea, whether it's LG Electronics, and even a couple of others which have been reported? Is this a big trend that you expect to pick up as we head into 2025?
Well, I think, you're clearly seeing several of these MNCs getting a huge valuation differential between overseas market and what the Indian market is willing to provide. I think it's, again, good news. If the Hyundai IPO comes through, it's expected to be the largest ever IPO this country has seen. And several more in the pipeline, some from the Korean MNCs and some otherwise as well. I think on the supply side, we definitely knew, given the kind of inflows that you're seeing into the Indian market, I think it's a good positive that you are seeing supply of such kind of paper as well.
Great to then have you on the show, Pranav, with your thoughts on what's really happening within the IPO market. Good chatting with you.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.